Awesome. Good afternoon, and welcome to our last Back on Track session for Tuesday, um, for today. And what's really nice about this afternoon is we're ending with a panel. So I'm pretty excited to ask our panelists some cool questions today for our students that might be tuning in. I am going to go ahead and get us started just so we have plenty of time to ask our panelists questions and get them answered by our panelists. So welcome to our session today. This is an admissions panel, so all types of questions related to college admissions. We're happy to have everybody here on the panel today. I will have them go around and let us know where they're from, so I don't have to list through all the folks we've got on our call today. But we've got a good variety of colleges represented this afternoon. Just some housekeeping items to make sure everything runs smoothly. This is a Zoom meeting. It's not a Zoom webinar. So difference being in a meeting, everybody can interact together. So we do ask that you keep yourself muted if you aren't talking, just to prevent that background noise and kind of keep us focused on today's content. We are recording the session, so if you're a student or a school counselor listening in, those recording links will be available starting Monday next week to access all the sessions that are taking place this week. If you do have a question for a panelist, please feel free to unmute yourself after we get through a round of answers and pipe in and ask your question, or if you type it in the chat, we will make sure to ask that question as we get through our cycles of the question. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Could you each let us know which college you're working at and your favorite part of being an admissions representative or counselor? And Rachel, I'm gonna start with you.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Rachel Pierce and I am with the University of Iowa. I've been an admission counselor for starting my third year now, and I work primarily with students in Southeast Iowa as well as Illinois. And my favorite part about being an admission counselor would definitely be working with the students. I mean, that's the best part of our job. Y'all bring so much joy when we're, working through those questions and helping you navigate that college search process.
Awesome, thank you. Drew, I'm gonna pop that over to you.
Thanks. I'm Drew Schradle. I'm the Director of Admission at Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa. And so I work with all of our counselors who work with all of our students. And so I am starting my 8th year in admission. And my favorite part about working in admission is just especially move-in, getting to see all the families and the students that we've worked with for a year or longer finally come to campus. And then finally the kind of the last hug goodbye as the students start their experience here at Cornell College.
Yeah, and this year I feel like that happened pretty smoothly for a lot of folks, just not too long ago. So,
extra
awesome.
tears, I think, this year.
Yes, for sure. All right, Kimberly, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Hi, well, I'm Kimberly. I am the Simpson representative, Simpson College in Indianola, Iowa. This is actually my first year, actually 2 months onto the job, but I am a 21 grad of Simpson, and my favorite part of working for admissions is just being able to connect with the students and getting to show my Simpson pride and kind of helping students find their way through that college process.
That's awesome. Welcome to your new role, and we're happy to have you here today. Jesus, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jesus Lizarraga Estrada, and I work at the University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls. I would say my favorite part would be like working with students, like everyone said, and I think just making college a possibility. So whether that be at UNI or elsewhere, it's just making sure that it is feasible and it is possible.
Awesome, thank you. And Renee, I'm going to pass that over to you.
Hi guys, my name is Renee Macantine. I'm the Director of Admissions here at Indian Hills. Going on my 8th year. I actually started as an academic advisor and then moved into this role. I would say campus events are one of my favorite things, just because you get to see students and their families come to campus and see their eyes kind of light up with their options and possibilities. So that's a fun thing that we're excited to have back this year for sure after the craziness of last year. So yeah, just working with students is great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining us. You definitely all have the common strand of working with students and enjoying, seeing everybody on campus and getting them access to what they need to be successful. So I am so thrilled to have you on today. And we do have some more, I'd say, general type of admissions questions, but please speak from where you're representing. And if there's anything specific you want to add, please feel free to do that too. But we did try to keep questions just a bit more general because this is going out to the general Iowa student population. All right, so our first question are, what are the top 3 areas that admissions counselors prioritize when reviewing applications? And Jesus, I'm going to start with you.
So we're looking at the region's admissions index, right? So same thing would be for Iowa State, Iowa. So we're kind of restricted based on that. So we're looking at test scores, ACT, your cumulative GPA, and then your core classes. So typically that would be a minimum of 4 years of math, science, social studies, and then 2 years of a world language for us. That may differ for Iowa and Iowa State. And then typically, right, if you get a specific score, which is 245, you're offered admission. Now, if you fall below that 245, that's where we differ. What I would say is what we're looking at is a trend in the GPA to see maybe you had a bad year, then you went up, or vice versa. We might ask for a personal statement if we need to get to that, a letter of recommendation, right? If you're kind of on borderline admissibility in terms of GPA, but that's kind of what we're looking at. We're trying to get behind those numbers that many times don't tell a story. So if at any point you feel that, you're afraid to apply based on your GPA or your test scores, just let us know and that we can work with you individually. And especially now, since we're test optional, meaning we don't require test scores for fall 22, fall 23, we're still in discussion, but kind of get to know you, but looking at that as a core.
Thank you. That was a question I guess I would tack on to this one too, is anything about test scores that you can offer up as far as whether they're optional or, if your school is test optional is helpful as well. We've had a lot of those come in already this fall. Renee, I'm going to pop this question over to you.
So with Indian Hills being a community college, we are a little bit different as far as kind of that reviewing application phase. It's open enrollment into our advanced technologies in our arts and sciences programs. We do have some health sciences programs, though, that we are looking at certain test scores. And then, for example, our nursing program, we do require the TEAS exam and your CNA. We have a couple of unique programs as well. So our aviation pilot program requires a physical prior to getting in. So our pilots meet with the students and they are required to have a physical before entering. And then a couple of our health sciences programs, occupational therapy as well as physical therapy, require observation hours prior to coming in. So 40 hours, which with COVID has been a little interesting. So our program has done kind of some videos and different things to allow students a little bit more ease in getting those hours. But a little bit different from the community college. We take ACT, that helps a lot of times with scholarships and things, but no certain test requirements unless you're going into health.
Okay. Do you guys have, is it the AccuPlacer test? Is that something that you look at?
Yes, we do. Yep, that's perfect. So we either look at ACT scores or the AccuPlacer. So we do have students, it's one or the other. So SAT, ACT, or the AccuPlacer exam, we accept either one of those for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee. I appreciate that. Kimberly, I'm going to throw this question over to you.
Yeah, awesome. So for here at Simpson, I would say the big top 3 areas that we do look at would be your GPA. We are test optional, so you're not required to submit a test score, but I always encourage my students, if you have a score that you're really proud of, you might as well submit it just because that's something you worked hard to get. On top of that, we look at your transcripts, which we are accepting unofficial. So just being able to look at the classes that you take. And then also on top of that, just looking at the extracurriculars, whether that's a sport or you're part of the National Honor Society or student president, looking at those as well would be the top 3 areas for us.
Awesome. Thank you. And Rachel, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, so similar to what Jesus talked about, University of Iowa also looks at the Regent Admission Index score, as well as Iowa State University too. So we also are test optional for fall 2022 students. So you can apply with or without an ACT or SAT test score. If you choose to apply without an ACT or SAT test score, then we're going to review you more holistically, in which we may ask for additional information such as a transcript or a personal statement. We do not take a look at letters of recommendation. So that's something to know about the University of Iowa. We have direct admit requirements for some of our colleges. So College of Business, Engineering, Nursing, as a few examples. So those are some things to look into. For example, nursing will require 1 year of physics, where it's just general admission to the University of Iowa through our College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. That's where the majority of our majors. We don't require physics. So it's good to know what the direct admit requirements for your specific major of interest is.
Yeah, I did not realize that. Thank you. And Drew, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So like many of the others, we're also test optional. We've been test optional for about 6 years now. So if you apply with test scores, we're going to look at your transcript, your GPA, your test score, and we do require an essay for both of our applications. If you apply test optional, we just have a couple of additional writing samples that we look at, and the core courses that you take will be a part of it. We do look at your activities. And so I know that this past year, the past 2 years have been fairly difficult with activities. So for us, at least, I know that I'm encouraging students to put down the activities that you're planning to participate in last year, even if you didn't get to participate in them, because we don't want to hold that against you that obviously something happened and it's completely out of your control. And we want to make sure that we acknowledge what you've been interested in. But as far as test optional, it's both for admission and scholarship. And Jamie, I don't want to take over your job, but I just didn't know if maybe by a show of a thumbs up reaction, if whoever for test optional, the test optional application does not require a test score for scholarship, if you could do that, because I know that was a confusing piece last year, that some schools were test optional for admission, but for scholarship, they still require a test score. And so if you thumbs up, if you don't require the test score for scholarship, that might help people.
Awesome. I put a thumbs up because our office does state aid. So it's usually just the FAFSA that we have to, there's a couple that involve a little bit more, but we don't look at test scores. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Yeah, that is good to know. Those have been a lot of, I'd say, the popular questions that our office has been kind of fielding, to a point where we've come up with a spreadsheet gathering the data to share out with our schools to make sure students are informed. So I appreciate that. Okay, our next question is, can your admission counselor be considered your kind of go-to person during the application process, and what all do they assist students with during that kind of time period for the student? And Renee, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, definitely. We like to say that I feel fortunate that we can kind of hold students' hand through the process. I know we've been starting a lot of application day events kind of at different high schools around our area. And it's really a first step for us that we can really guide the students, in, okay, you've done your application. Let's check that off. What's the next step? FAFSA. What's the next step after that? Scholarship. So we really like to help students kind of through the process from start to finish, definitely. And I think some students, either if they've taken concurrent enrollment or not, that application process is a little bit different. And so we really like to just be there to kind of answer questions, log in, help through the process all the way until it's submitted. So I feel like students can kind of get overwhelmed sometimes. I know I've talked to a lot of seniors already that where do I start? What do I do? So we really like to be kind of the go-to for that, to help with that process for sure.
Awesome. And yeah, that's definitely very true. It can be very overwhelming, especially when you're doing more than one too. So there's different things that different applications need. Rachel, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yes, we are definitely here to help answer any questions, any and all. I have students be like, this might be a stupid question, but I'm like, nothing's a stupid question. I mean, this is your first time going through this process. So we're definitely here to help you. We have a large team helping out within the state of Iowa. So I'm just going to list them off real quick in case it, touches any area in which a student's joining in from today. But we have Drew Thomas is up in Northwest Iowa. We have Zachary Rigdon in Northeast Iowa, Hannah Hodges in the Cedar Rapids area, Susan Dickinson in Iowa City. My name is Rachel Pierce. I work with Southeast Iowa students. And then we have Chris Trado, as well as a lot of you are coming from Central Iowa. So Marissa Wietrick would be your go-to person. So if you've gotten emails from them, don't hesitate to reach back out. And we're friendly people. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, I can attest to that too. I've talked to both Marissa and Chris, and they're great resources of information. So definitely reach out to your admissions counselor with questions. Drew, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, I mean, like others have said, I see us as kind of the air traffic control. All the questions can come to us, and if there's something that we are maybe not as well suited to answer, so specifically like things revolving around your FAFSA or financial aid, documents like that, we can get you to the right people. But I fully trust that my admission team is here to be your resource and to bounce questions off of. And as Rachel said, there's no stupid or dumb questions. As jumping to another question, we get confused with Cornell University in New York a bunch, and even that we treat you with the utmost respect. We get it a lot, and we'll even give you their phone number to call. But so yeah, we're here for your benefit and to hopefully take away as much stress about this as possible.
Thank you. I forgot about that, but being an Iowa native, it doesn't make sense that there would be another one. So, Jesus, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what everyone said. I would say that I don't see my team being engaged even when students are already here, which I think it's very telling, right? That we're not just here for the admissions process, it's beyond that. So as you transition to UNI and then complete, right, your degree. So, and I think the other folks can probably attest that based on their own universities and colleges that happens, that connection happens, right? Like we're here to help you come here, but that's not the end of it. Is our job is to get you through here too. So
thank you. I appreciate that. As I think oftentimes students think of their admissions counselor as like the initial person, and then they're kind of done with them after that application. So Kimberly, I'm going to finish off with you.
Yeah, I would just echo really what everybody's saying. And I can just testify from my personal experience going through it like 5 years ago. My admissions counselor at that time was like my best friend. I texted him at any given time with any question. So that's the approach I'm taking. I know we're taking here at Simpson, trying to help out with anything we can, whether that's starting the application to finding the perfect professor to talk to for that given major, to just help with financial aid, and then finally getting to Simpson. So really just like everybody's saying, continuing that relationship way after that application process is also what we're here for as well.
Awesome. Thank you. It does, I would say admissions counselors have become much more accessible over the past few years as far as different modes of communication. All right. Our next question is, do admissions counselors really look at social media profiles? If so, what type of content might you be looking at or for? And Drew, I'll start with you.
Not really. If we checked every single person's social media profile that applies, we'd never get anything done. I will say occasionally we can, especially if we have been having a conversation with a student and we're trying to figure out, they're between two schools. We're trying to figure out if the student has committed or not or to the other school or us. We may occasionally check a social media profile because a lot of times students will put like, hey, I'm going to X or I'm going to Y. And that just kind of informs us. But as far as like doing a deep dive, at least my staff, we don't have the time or the resources to really do that deep dive. Although, I guess you never know. So I would say, post carefully and smartly.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, social media platforms have changed a lot in the last, I don't know, even 2 years. So, there's a lot to chase down if you're really looking for it. Let's see, Kimberly, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, I would just echo what you're saying. We don't really scope. We don't have the time or resources to look at every single applicant. But one rule of thumb I always tell, not just like my students, but all my friends, whatever you post on social media now can and will come bite you in the butt if you do say something wrong. So just be aware of what you're posting, just as a general rule. If it's not college admissions looking at it, it might be a future employer, and you don't want any of those bad stuff out there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you. Jesus, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Saying we don't look at it. I would say like not, I don't know of any Iowa schools, but there have been other schools out of state that have withdrawn their admission based on postings that were insensitive, right? So I would just say be careful on that content, because it has happened, right? Once again, not my experience, not that I know of, but I've read about it. So something to consider, especially as you're looking at schools.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did not think about that. Renee, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, I definitely agree kind of with what everyone's saying. We aren't specifically looking. I will say, though, we did start a President's Academy scholarship. So arts and sciences, our president in our 10 county area, we serve 19 schools and they have the opportunity for a full tuition scholarship. And so they can go in, apply for that. And that is something that we're kind of, looking at because we have so many applicants and they have to interview and kind of do that process. And kind of goes along with some of our clubs and things that we have on campus. Student ambassadors are kind of our leaders across campus. So those are types of things that, we're looking at or, having those conversations, I think, with students for sure that, those pockets we might be looking at more, not every student, but I think definitely making it aware for students is kind of a learning thing moving forward.
Yeah, and that's a excellent point that you bring up with looking maybe for something that's a bit more, involved and has different, application things going on. Rachel, I'm going to wrap this one up with you.
Yeah, so same answer as everyone else. We don't look at social media for any admission or scholarship purposes. However, we have an awesome communications team. So if you ever want to be featured on our admission social media pages, we do have a hashtag Future Hawkeyes that you could always plug in during your, school visit, or, if you're admitted, we always love having, sharing those stories from students on our social media.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a different route to take there too. Encouraging to use your university's, connections to social media versus keeping focused on your own. So I appreciate that. Okay, our next question. Okay, this might be just specific to a university, but at a university, do students apply to a specific college right out of high school, or do they, wait until they've figured out their major to apply to that specific college? And so, Rachel, I'm actually going to start with you.
Yeah, great question. So as I mentioned before within admission, so when we're looking at, the Regent Admission Index score, or if we're reviewing you more holistically for applying without a test score, then, majority of our majors are housed in our College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So general admission would first, be through the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. But if you have interest in, nursing or business, engineering, public health, there's in pharmacy too has a new assured admission. There are direct admit requirements that you would also need to meet in order to be directly admitted into those programs. So it's good to definitely check out our website if you have interest within those specific areas, and you can check out the additional admission requirements into those programs.
Okay, thank you. And Jesus, I'm going to pass that over to you.
Yeah, so typically you'll apply, to UNI, that would be your first step, you're admitted. And then the only ones that require additional specific classes in GPA, but that happens once you're here, would be our College of Business and in our College of Ed. But then you'll have advisors that will be working with you to make sure that you're taking specific classes you need in order to be admissible for those programs.
Right. Thank you. Kim, Drew, or Renee, please pipe in if that question applies to your colleges. I'm not sure. So I don't want to leave you out either.
I was going to say, ours is a little bit different, definitely with the community college level. We have 70+ programs here. So it would really just be specific towards the program, not the
Okay.
college. Yeah, because we have divisions. So we do arts and sciences transfer, and then we have advanced technology and health sciences. So it's kind of broken down really more per program.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Cornell and Kimberly, please chime in if I speaking wrong of Simpson, but we're both liberal arts colleges. So you would just apply to the college and then choose a major later once you get here, if you didn't have an idea of a program that you wanted to focus on from the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Our next question is, when do students typically declare a major? Do you see a lot coming in declaring a major when they're applying? Or do you see, more of the deciding once they've gotten started and maybe going into their next semesters? Let's see. Kimberly, I'm going to start with you.
That is a great question. I would say here at Simpson, we don't let our students officially declare their major until their sophomore year. So we always like to say, while you might have an interest that you want to do, we really hope that your first year, you're kind of exploring different things. So whether that's business classes, psychology classes, biology classes, kind of figure out what you want to do before you declare. But also we always like to say that our most popular major is undecided, just because that first year is really meant to kind of discover what's out there. And then your sophomore year, you can decide. I personally switched my major my junior year. So just being able to have that different scopes is something really great about a liberal arts college. Just being able to explore those different programs that you have.
Yeah, thank you. I actually really appreciate that because you do get, a wider sense of things that are going on. Renee, I'm going to pass this over to you.
I would say typically students, they have something that they've chosen. I think what's great sometimes about community college, they can change their mind and it's not too big of a deal, especially if they're transfer majors and they're, planning to transfer, to one of you guys to try to help them get that all squared away. And even program to program, like our diplomas and our Associate of Applied Science, that honestly is one of the biggest things that we tell students is it's okay if you don't know, to try to normalize that a little bit. And so for them to declare their program or major, I would say a lot of students feel pressure to have that done, but that it's okay and it's fairly easy to switch here at the community college level.
Awesome. Thank you. Jesus, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, I would say there's kind of like 3 steps for us. One of them is when you apply, you indicate a program, right? And you can change that at any time after applying. The second time is when you come to orientation in the summer. So you graduate from high school, you come to orientation in the summer, you sign up for classes. That's when you officially declare your major, right? You can also double major, get a minor, and so forth. If you do not know what you want to do, it's okay. So one third of our students coming in are actually deciding students, and then they will work with their advisors, right? Like every other college has, but typically with our deciding students, they end up declaring their major their second semester here. And then 80% of them actually end up graduating with that degree, which is very different from someone who comes in thinking they want to do something, but it's unsure, right? They end up changing their major an average of 5 times. So I would say, talk to the schools that you're interested in. Don't feel pressure to select a program. Like Renee said, I think we need to normalize it, that it's okay that you don't know what you want to do, and that's fine. And seeing what avenues and resources the different colleges have to help you decide on a major once you're there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, and to me, this time is meant to help you make those decisions. So sometimes it can feel really rushed. Drew, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, like Simpson, we don't require major selection until December of your sophomore year. So you get a year and a half to try things out. Being on the block plan is a little bit different, I think, for us in choosing a major. I always say that with how we do things, we'll take one course at a time. for 18 days, you kind of figure out whether or not you like something pretty quickly. But I think the benefit of that is that you're not kind of stuck in that class for 4 months, even if it's broken up in hour-long periods. You kind of get it done with, and you say, hey, you know what? Art's not my thing. I'm not going to take an art class again. I'm done with that. And so I think that's a nice way that the students get to explore at Cornell. We have a good number that come in undecided. We have a good number that come in that have decided. We have academic advisors who are assigned to those still deciding or undecided students, and they help them kind of explore and find things. And I think the message I always deliver to students is, if you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. You come in with ideas versus decisions, because there's a lot of students that come in that I feel like have decided from minute one that, hey, I want to do this. And the one I always kind of pick on, and it's not for any specific mean reason, but I hear it a lot, is students come in and say, I want to be a doctor, I want to go pre-med, this is what I'm going to do, hands down. And I ask them, like, well, you like science, and they're like, no, I don't like science, I just like helping people. And it's like, that's great, I love that you love helping people, but it is going to be a bear to get through things if you don't like science. But they kind of put in their head, and so they block out all of the signals their first 2 years that it's not for them, and then they change their major. Where if you come in with some ideas versus the hard decisions, when you see those signs, it's not so defeating that, oh, I'm not going to be a doctor, but I could do this because I really like this. And you can make that shift, I think, a little bit easier. So that's where I say you don't have to decide right away. Come in with some ideas, try those out, and then you can kind of move into that direction of what you want to major in.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, because I feel like we can put a lot of pressure on our students to have kind of their mind made up and come in with a mindset of, this is what I'm going to do. And nobody's going to change that mind until they get into it, and then they figure out, oh, maybe I need to change my own mind. All right, Rachel, I'm going to wrap this up with you.
Yeah, Drew brings up a lot of great points. I think definitely, when students are asked by their, family members, friends, teachers, what are you majoring in? Oftentimes there's pressure to have an answer that sounds good, but don't put that pressure on yourself. About 20% of students coming into the University of Iowa are open major, and that is a perfectly normal and popular option to go into. And you can always work. That's what your academic advisor is there for. That's what we're there for. Also, our career center is there to help you kind of navigate, based on maybe your professional interests and the different paths to navigate. So don't feel the pressure. It's perfectly okay to come in as open major, and you'll work closely with people to help support you to narrow down. University of Iowa has over 200 areas of studies. That can be overwhelming. So again, open major is a great option, especially too within the College of Engineering. You can even come in as undeclared major too within the College of Engineering, which is a nice option as well. But you're going to have a lot of support on campus and off campus to help you navigate and make those decisions.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really cool about the engineering program, because I don't think I learned until I was well into my 20s that you could be multiple different types of an engineer. So that would definitely been something I would have teased myself with in college had I known more. All right, this question is a yes or no question. So I'm thinking if you can give a thumbs up, or if you'd like to elaborate more, just feel free to unmute yourself and let us do that. But can you connect with your admissions counselor throughout the time that you're attending college? So it's not just through the application process and before you become a student. So if you could put a thumbs up if that suits your school, if you want to explain anything more. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So for those that will be listening to a recording, all thumbs up all the way around. Your admissions counselor is there for you, throughout your time at the college, versus just through that kind of application time period. That you'll probably be working most closely with them, I would say, but then throughout your time as a student there, they're there to support you too. Okay, our next question is, what are some examples of clubs and activities that are available to students, either on your campus or ones you might know about at other places? Jesus, I'm going to start with you.
We have a lot of different student orgs on campus and clubs. So for UNI specifically, we have over 260 that you can choose from, anything within your major base to service base. So like Really for Life, Dance Marathon, or some of our bigger ones on campus, service related. But I would say like there's anything that you want to do typically is on campus. If you cannot find a club, you can always create one too. We do offer a system called Panther FYI, which is Panther for your involvement. So it'll ask you questions and then it'll match you up with clubs based on your interests. And then you can connect with their advisors, their student officers, right? And then get more information, attend meetings too. So a lot of different options. And I'm sure the other colleges will say even more. So I'll stop.
Yeah, that's really cool. To be able, that just streamlines it a lot for the student too. Renee, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like he said too, we have a lot of different opportunities on campus. A lot of our programs, even if you're in the program, for example, you're in culinary arts, you're in nursing, they have clubs associated with their programs to get those students active, in the community and things of in itself. And then they actually give scholarships for being a part of those clubs as well. So yeah, I mean, anything from program specific, we have 5 dorms on campus here on our Ottumwa campus. So there's a lot of, on-campus activities. We have actually a lot of commuter students as well. And so we have specific activities for them. And really, if there's a club that is not on campus, students it needs one student and one faculty member to get something started. So it's pretty simple. So we have had students do that as well. So a lot of different activities, student senate, things to get a part of. I always say, if you can get active, it's just such a great way to meet people on campus and even campus jobs through work study and student wages. I always think that's kind of a neat opportunity to just, find ways to get involved, meet other students and people across campus. So I feel pretty fortunate that we have a lot of offerings.
Yeah, thank you. And you also made me think of student government too, kind of being its own, I don't want to say club, but kind of organization maybe to be part of. That's pretty big on a lot of campuses. All right, Rachel, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, so we have over 500 student organizations on our campus, so it's quite a bit to choose from. We have our student organization fairs that happen the beginning of every semester. So I just helped out at one of a few weeks ago, and it was well attended, and it's just a great example of how many opportunities we have on our campus for students. It can range from like dance marathon. We have a chess club. There's, I think, like a cookie eating club. So it can be, a fun thing, but it could also be very professional, academic focused. And so we have even athletics like running club, first gen professionals club. So there's quite a bit of things to choose from. I always encourage students to get involved in something that is fun. So find a club that's fun. That's where you're going to meet students that you might not sit in a classroom with. And then find something that's more like professional or academic fitting too, because you want to be able to connect and network with students and faculty within your area of interest as well. So find something fun, but also find something professionally fitting as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's a excellent point. And if I were there, I would join the cookie eating club. That sounds delicious. Kimberly, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different clubs and organizations here on campus, 100 different clubs, 19 Division III athletics. So some of the unique ones that I always like to point out about Simpson is we actually, for next season, so next fall, we will have women's gymnastics, which we're super excited about. And then we also just added esports. So for any of those video game players listening, we have that, and there is a scholarship for that. So we're really excited for those. And then we're also home to the National Speech and Debate Team, 4-time national champs. So if that interests you, there's also a scholarship. But on top of those, just like the other universities and clubs, we have those professional ones like accounting club or education club. And then those fun ones like CAB, which is Campus Activity Boards, who plans all our big events, including homecoming to bingo night here on campus. So really my biggest advice is always just get involved and find those different clubs and organizations, because that will truly help your college experience grow and make you a better person as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's exciting. I'm really intrigued by the esports, so I will be asking you questions about that later. Drew, I'm going to wrap this question up with you.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much else to add that everybody else hasn't said. I mean, we have 80 plus clubs, organizations on campus as well. You can get involved. Our classes end at 3 o'clock each day. So I always say that you get kind of the rest of the afternoon each day to be the other half of the college student and be involved in those clubs and organizations. We're NCAA Division III as well. So 17 men and women's athletic teams that you can be involved in, as well as fine arts and music theater, dance and art. We have a nationally competitive mock trial team, and so that's something that we do have a scholarship for as well, to be a part of mock trial that travels all over the country to compete against other schools and beat the other Cornell that I talked about earlier. And we also have esports as well, so and offer scholarships for that. So esports is fastly growing, I think, in the state through the high schools and as well as colleges. So I'm sure that we'll play Simpson at some point in time in something. I'll have to ask our coach and figure out what's going on with that. So.
That's it's so fascinating to me. I just watched an explained episode about esports, and so I have a dozen nephews, so it's very prevalent in my life right now. So thank you. I appreciate that. My next question for you is, what advice would you give to students that are debating on applying to college right now? Mostly because we are coming, I don't want to say we're coming out of a pandemic quite yet, but it's been a challenging couple of application seasons. And so we do have a lot of students kind of questioning, is college still the right fit? They've either picked up, working, or they've had, time to think about other options. So if you could speak to your advice on any students that are debating just starting the application process for their post-secondary venture, I appreciate that. And we'll start with Kimberly.
Awesome. That's a great question. I actually just had a conversation with a student about that. So my best advice is always just to apply, whether that's just to Simpson or really to any college you're looking at. If it sparks a little interest, apply. Just because you apply doesn't mean you're committing in any sort of way to that college. So keep that in mind as well. I always say apply, just see what happens, kind of go through the process. I always, just looking back at my own college application experience, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So just be ready to go through the whole experience your senior year, but also enjoy your senior year as well, and don't stress too much, because college will figure itself out.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. Renee, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, I love that. It really will. It really will figure itself out. I think for us, we don't have an application fee. So I'm always telling students, we just opened our application here a couple weeks ago. And so I always say, to check one step off, it's a great first step to just get that part done. And we can help through that process. But I think if you can go ahead and do that, you can always change your mind. You're not locked into anything. But I think it feels good to get one step done once you can do that. So I highly recommend that, if you can do that, that's such a great first step to kind of check off.
Yeah, and great point. I mean, to me, I don't think students have much to lose just by applying. Rachel, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, so, same thing, definitely start the application process. If you need fee waiver, you can always check in with us about how to provide fee waiver documentation too, or chat with your school counseling office as well. But we do have a November 1st early action deadline. So if you apply by November 1st, you're definitely maximizing your opportunities available to yourself, whether that be, competitive scholarship opportunities, housing, you name it. But we do have a March 1st deadline. So as long as you apply by March 1st, we'll consider you for merit-based scholarship. And I definitely want all students to be considered for the maximum amount that they have worked hard to earn. So definitely, don't miss those important deadlines if you are considering. But when it comes down to choosing a school, I think there's 3 really important things that you should definitely consider. So the first one being, is this a good academic fit for me? So again, going back to the conversations that we had about open major, but even, all the other various opportunities that you could even explore as a student. So that'd be a good one. Second one being, is this a good financial fit for me? Oftentimes you might not know if it's a good financial fit until after you've applied. in which then you can see what scholarship opportunities you're being awarded. Typically in February is when the University of Iowa will send out our financial aid award letters. So it's really good to sit down and compare those packages to like other schools that you're also applying to. So being a good financial fit is really important. And also don't forget about the FAFSA opening October 1st. So that's a good one good plug for everybody. And then the third one being, is this a good community/campus fit? And that's where those campus visits are really important. So if you have the opportunity to come visit all of our campuses, I know the University of Iowa is hosting in person. I guess I can't speak for everyone else, but we would love to have you on campus to show you around and see if it's a place that you could call home.
Yeah, thank you. You set me up for a perfect selfish plug here. I forgot to mention at the beginning, our Back on Track events are taking place throughout the whole week. So actually tomorrow is all around financial aid and, financial aid packages, the FAFSA, all of that good stuff. And then Thursday is all around like campus involvement, more of like, what's it like to be on campus? I think even Drew's going to be talking to us about being a student athlete, those types of things. So for those listening, those are happening throughout the rest of this week. And then Jesus, I'm going to pass this question over to you.
No, I would say like the biggest reason why you should apply early is literally what Rachel said. There are deadlines for scholarships. So every school has different deadlines. So just make sure you start early, and you're not committing by applying anywhere or applying for scholarships anywhere. You're simply weighing out your options.
Yeah, definitely. And it is application season. So, I mean, decision season is next year. We do, Drew, I'm going to pass this question over to you. And then Carla, we will ask your question to our panel.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the same as everybody else has said, it's never too early to apply. I think, there's obviously, I think some nerves and some anxiety, because I'm sure that many of the students who are applying this year, and I've thought about this a lot, that you haven't had a chance to take an ACT, you haven't had a chance to take an SAT, you really haven't had a lot of the college guidance that most students at your point in time has had because of COVID. And so reaching out to admission reps, we're here to help. And again, as I said before, try to take as much stress away as possible. So we can talk you through the application. My team works on giving you the best advice on which application you should take. So if you're worried about your test score, we can help you out with that, and guide you to take a test optional application. And so many of us, if not all of us, are test optional, which means that if you haven't taken a test, that's fine. I always tell students, if you've never taken the test, I really don't care if you take the test optional. That's the purpose of it, is that we don't look at your test score. And as many have said, everything in the process is free up until you make a decision. There are going to be colleges that have application fees, and I would definitely double check on those. But many colleges are free applications, and if you choose those colleges, your application is free, your admission is free, your scholarship for many, at least for the liberal arts colleges, you will get for free. The FAFSA is free, so you'll get a financial aid package. All that information is there for you to take and be able to look at and make a determination up until you make that decision. And the last plug I just want to make for all the admission professionals, and especially for Iowa, I'm a part of Iowa ACAC, our national or regional group of admission counselors. And I think that all of us recruit ethically. And so we'll talk with you about your options. It doesn't do anybody any good to try and trick you into coming to Cornell if you're saying, I really want to go into a trade, right? Because we're not going to have that. And so we're going to encourage you and try to point you in the right direction, because we want you to succeed. And the last thing I want to do is try and or make a student or a family feel that we tricked you into coming to a four-year institution when that wasn't the right fit, right? And so we'll try and explain everything that we can provide for you and try and find you that right fit for what kind of institution you want to go into, whether it's a four-year institution, whether it's a two-year institution, or whether it's a trade school. And so I think that's another reason to reach out, because again, I think we're all in the business of recruiting ethically and not trying to trick you into just coming to our institution so you could be here, but rather really guide you and guide the next generation of college students to where you want to be and what's best for you. And again, all that is free. We're not charging for that. We're not a charge on the hour type of business.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. That's an excellent point. And even being in the college access field, like as a professional, that's what I see day in and day out is all of our admissions counselors really focusing on what's best for the student. So I feel like Iowa, especially, we're very lucky to have that kind of mentality amongst our admissions counselors. We do have a question from the chat, and Jesus, thank you for putting in the response for you and I in the chat there too. So other colleges, you can feel free to do that as well. But how early is early when applying for scholarships? And I'd say you can answer this institution specific or more general if you'd like. But Renee, I'm going to pass that over to you to start with.
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. For us, our scholarship application actually has been moved back this year to November 1st. So we kind of have the application, the FAFSA for October, and then we moved our application for all of our scholarships to November. So we just do one application for our foundation, that a student just has to fill out one application and they go into the running for all scholarships that we have. So we are fortunate, we give out $1.6 million here at the community college level at Indian Hills, and we just require students to fill out one scholarship. That goes with a couple others that we have that are actually full tuition. So like the Bright Scholars, we have a Tom Arnold Scholarship, our President's Scholarship, those all are November 1st as well. And we do priority deadlines for ours, just meaning we have a priority deadline of January, March, and then the end of May. The only reason we do that is if students get those in by those certain dates, we always say the earlier the better, because once you do your FAFSA, we can start to let students know what they're going to be awarded by January, by March, by the end of May, to really kind of make that informed decision that's best for them, right? And money is a big one. So, we just ask that students have that done by the end of May, but we always really recommend if you can get it done early and start in November, that's an awesome opportunity just to get more scholarships. And then really to start working on even outside scholarships through the high schools too, as I know that there's a lot of community scholarships, things through the high schools, jobs, things like that.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Renee. Rachel, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we do have a March 1st deadline to apply to us to be considered for merit-based scholarships. So definitely, get your application in by then. But I would say I would encourage applying, the sooner than later is obviously better for multiple reasons, but financial aid being one of those important ones. So the FAFSA does open up here pretty quickly. I guess we're almost into October, which is scary to say. But October 1st, FAFSA opens, and then the University of Iowa does have a priority deadline of December 1st for students to submit their FAFSA. That's just to maximize any need-based aid opportunities from the University of Iowa. And then, we have our Iowa Scholarship Portal, which is our online scholarship hub. Those opportunities actually have opened up. They've been open for a couple of weeks already, and some of them will start closing here end of November, really throughout the next few months, fall semester and into the early spring semester. So again, applying sooner than later, and that way we can get you admitted, and then you can start those applications, and you don't miss any deadlines. And then I always put in a plug too for our students within your own community. Make sure you're checking in with your counseling office to look for local scholarship opportunities. Those are really important. They may be smaller, but they definitely add up quickly.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you. And thank you all for adding in the chat too. It looks like for you and I, scholarship deadline at UNI would be January 15th of your senior year. I'm just going to say these out loud so that way it's for the recording. And at Cornell, merit scholarships are awarded upon admission. Drew, does that mean you have to accept your admission to be awarded the merit scholarship?
No, so if you're admitted
Okay.
to Cornell, so if you apply and you're admitted, you'll receive a scholarship in your acceptance letter.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah, it's just just there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Any additional awards from Cornell have a deadline of March 1st. So if you're thinking about more, definitely keep that March deadline in your time frame. And then for Simpson, merit-based scholarships are also done with their applications. So just really one application, and then any special interest scholarships have an additional application due by February 1st. So really we're looking at kind of time coming up for super early ones, and then really looking into the beginning of the year for other scholarships. But if you are student listening, really you can start searching for scholarships when you're, in middle school. They do exist out there. And what I often tell students is just think of like any company that you can find like in your pantry, even they likely have a scholarship. So things like Fritos, Pepsi, just different companies that you might just see brands of throughout your own home. Always check them out for scholarships too. Those are not institution specific by any means, but they usually have something. And they are a bit, national scholarships, so they could be a little bit harder to get, but still worth checking out. We definitely have Iowans that do earn those. All right, folks, thank you for joining us today. I am going to end with that question because we're getting close to our hour here. But thank you for joining us. I have some closing announcements real quick, and then we'll wrap up our call for this afternoon. Okay, so just a reminder, we have 2 more days left of our Back on Track sessions going on, and you can find those at iowacollegeaid.gov/backontrack, and you can register for them there all the way up until they start, really. So that is happening, and we will have all of the sessions recorded, so those will be provided out if you've had to come and go in a session or weren't able to catch it today. Some other things happening this weekend. We do have the Golden Circle College Fair being put on by ICANN, and that's happening from 12:30 to 3 p.m. on Sunday in Altoona, Iowa, so over by the Des Moines area. If you're interested in learning more or registering for that, the website is on this slide here, and then we can put the link in the chat as well. I think that was it for announcements, but if you have any questions in general about any college going things or about the event this week, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We can get you connected to the right resource and make sure we get your questions answered. All right, and big thank you to our partners that have helped make this event possible this year. We started this last year and we kind of scaled back a little more this year, but we have some excellent partners that have helped make that possible and getting us in touch with all of our speakers and bringing everybody in. So we're very, very grateful for that. All right.